The coming federal weaponization of banking. You mean the weaponization of banking that started with the formation of the Federal Reserve? Or, okay, no, that's just a conspiracy theory, RGE. Okay, fine. Let's go back to the very first provable instance that I remember off the top of my head of weaponization of banking. Prohibition. That's how the government fought the mafia. They literally couldn't do anything else but, fight them at the banks, get them for tax evasion, try to block their money. This has been happening since long before any of us has been alive. But just now, the mainstream is finally realizing it. I guess I'm glad that people are finally starting to wake up. But I just can't help shake the feeling that it would have been so much better if they did this a few decades ago. We could have nipped this in the bud. The largest shakeup in finance since the formation of the Federal Reserve is nearly here. The establishment of a government-backed cryptocurrency is a threat to the freedom of commerce and would give Washington the ability to weaponize banking against political dissent, or even block Americans from accessing their own money altogether. Oh, you mean like literally what they can do now? Do you really think them having a cryptocurrency is going to change anything? Like, dude, government cryptocurrencies defeat the whole purpose of cryptocurrency. Like, remember, the whole point of crypto is unless you give them your password, or I guess they torture it out of you, there's nothing the government can do to screw with your money. Why would anyone even consider getting government or bank crypto? The whole point of crypto is to get out of that centrally managed system. How would this even work unless they literally just declare one day that all dollars are crypto now? A digital version of the dollar has been in the works for over a year now. Earlier this month, Potatoes signed an executive order, both curtailing existing crypto and laying the groundwork for a federal digital cryptocurrency. Got to get rid of the better competition first to force everyone onto the shitty option. Exactly like I say they always do. Crypto regulations have been a favorite topic of the Dims on Capitol Hill and regulators in the federal bureaucracy. Brandon deployed numerous excuses, including the risks to money laundering and the carbon emissions needed to produce crypto, to justify cracking down on the currencies. But the kicker of the statement is the regulatory groundwork for the coming digital dollar. The U.S. will be the second major power to foster such a move after China, where efforts to create a digital currency are part of its social credit system, are a sign of what might be coming here soon. Once again, proving me right. They're going to use China as the blueprint. And spoiler alert, we already have social credit here in the U.S. It's just enforced by social media instead of the government for now. But that can change at any time. Physical currency will likely be phased out entirely over time. That's their goal. Get rid of cash altogether so they can track every last cent and make damn sure to tax you. Although, what I wish they would do is automate the tax system at this point. Stop making me waste days of my time every year doing my taxes if you fuckers already spy on me and know where all my money went anyway. In favor of a digital format controlled by the Federal Reserve. The ubiquity of cell phones and scannable codes will make integration of a digital currency under some form of the blockchain relatively easy to implement. This soft nationalization of the banking sector would leave the U.S. in uncharted waters. Nearly every transaction, from political donations to purchases as seemingly insignificant as a pack of gum, would be visible to the government and subject to scrutiny. Government regulators could block or track certain transactions with no trial or public recourse. Even worse, if you were placed on a list by a federal bureaucrat, not a judge, your access to banking and credit cards potentially could be shut off without a warrant or trial. So the same thing they already do, just minus a few steps. Gotcha. What this is really going to do, though, is this is going to bring back bartering. It's like, oh, well, if we can't trade money under the table anymore, we're just going to trade items and favors, services. Like, say, if you're a plumber and your friend's an electrician, I think you're set. He'll do all of the electrical work for you, and you do all the plumbing work for him. No money changed hands. You got everything you wanted. See, it's funny that the government is going to force us back to bartering. That's what's going to happen. There's a chilling irony that the open source technology intended to evade the government control instead could be used for it. And anyone who buys into it, you kind of deserve it. The use of the Homeland Security apparatus after 9/11 could be used as a domestic cudgel, and watch lists and flagging systems similar to those against international terrorists could be used against American citizens. You mean like they already are? If your political views are deemed extremist or your ability to purchase firearms or plane tickets could be blocked automatically, like right now, it's called the no-fly list. It's called red flag laws. They already do all of this. Taken to a further extent, the president would allow for the federal government or states or localities in certain circumstances to restrict purchases of tobacco or fatty foods, or to block people who haven't been jabbed or boosted against Coronachan or the latest virus from dining out in cities with vaccine mandates in place, like they're already doing right now. It'll just be a little easier for them. At the same time, a centralized digital currency would allow for the Federal Reserve to create trillions of dollars with the click of a button, causing inflation to further spiral out of control, like they can already do now. Like technically, I think that all the digital money in your bank account should be backed by physical dollars, but that's about as as worthless as how the dollar is backed by gold. They could just change it whenever they want. Like, what is stopping your bank from just creating money? Your money in your bank account is nothing but a bunch of ones and zeros on a computer anyway. Just log in and add a few zeros. Boom, money created. Much of this pseudo printing would be a major boon to Washington. The federal government could distribute social spending in an instant and then pay for it down the line. But that's one thing that America does well, and that's one thing that socialism and communism in particular is good for, is you buy benefits for yourself now at the expense of the future. And the plan is you'll be dead by then. It's going to be your kid's problem. Though the existing bureaucracy can expand the government's door with relative alacrity, federal equity programs could be dependent on this connection between DC and your coming digital wallet. Thinking that all this sounds far-fetched? Just look at what's happening in China and even in the US already. Beijing's social credit system punishes malcontents with restrictions on internet use and travel. Closer to home, Canada used its emergency acts to effectively shut out supporters of the Freedom Convoy from polite society, and supporters of the protest had their bank accounts frozen. All of this without this cryptocurrency. Single moms making minimum wage lost access to their money for donating as little as $50 to the truckers. The Canadian government shut down more than 200 bank accounts and more than 250 cryptocurrency addresses and threatened to suspend protesters' insurance coverage. The message from the government to truckers and their supporters was clear. Your opinions are not acceptable to the blackface Hitler government. And they paid for it, though. They're still paying for it. Because after they did this, Canadian banks bled money. And I think they're still bleeding money. Nobody trusts the banking system anymore. And they shouldn't. Such harsh means will be a valuable precedent for governments worldwide for a simple fact that they work. And the establishment of interlinked government cryptocurrencies, which make every transaction traceable and punishable, will only make such tyrannical measures easier to implement. The government wants to make it so you're completely dependent on them. The Brand administration has less than 3 years left to put into place the most formidable central banking operation in a century at the expense of personal liberty. For now, these changes may not seem threatening. After all, you have nothing to hide. But the implementation of such sweeping government powers over personal banking with corporate acceptance will be utilized by upcoming Republican and Democratic presidents in support of their own causes at the expense of yours. Believe me, they're on the same side. If you don't want your $20 Freedom Convoy or Burn, Loot, Murder donation auto-flagging you as a domestic terrorist, well, to be fair, one of those groups actually is a terrorist organization. So, yeah. Speak up now or forever lose your ability to do so. Once the genie's out of the bottle, you will not be able to put it back in. It's coming. Prepare for it. That's about all we can say here.